This Week in Agribusiness, serving America's most essential industry, is brought to you by Case IH. Coming up on this weekend's broadcast, other Iowa fields of dreams will be in the spotlight yet this month. Hello, everyone. Welcome to This Week in Agribusiness. Mr. Pearson is away this weekend. We'll single-handedly bring you up to date on what's happening in agriculture, including that crucial weather forecast with Greg Solier. He'll be here to join us in just a few minutes. But let's talk about those fields of dreams near Boone, Iowa. The Farm Progress Show coming up at the end of the month, and it hasn't been at that site near Boone for 4 years. Joining us from Farm Progress Companies, the sponsor, the host of that show, is Don Torty. Don, welcome.
Hello, Max.
Hey, we're ramping up the excitement there, I'm sure, with the anticipation and folks coming from other countries even for this show. I heard from an agronomist in Brazil a few days ago. He said, we're bringing some people your way.
Yeah, isn't that exciting? I mean, last year at the show, we didn't see a very big international contingent, but I myself heard from 2 different Brazilians yesterday that are planning to come. So it looks like it's business as usual, where we'll have people from not only, the Midwest, all over the United States, as well as international. Typically, we'll have 40 plus countries or states, 50 plus countries, and hopefully we're getting back towards that.
When someone asks you what this show is like, they haven't experienced it before, how do you describe it to them?
Well, people use the Super Bowl of Agriculture or the Detroit Auto Show, but I say there's nothing like it. I mean, it is absolutely the latest and greatest in agricultural technology. And, it's a celebration of ag too. There's absolutely no question about it. I'm in awe every single time I'm there, seeing all the innovations, all of the what's next in agriculture, the ability to see autonomy, the latest technology, whether that be in a seed or in a tractor. It's just fascinating to me.
You mentioned autonomy. It strikes me that there is the hands-on experience in the ride and drive that is a part of this show, but farmers will also be able to observe hands-off operation out there, true?
Absolutely. There's a section for autonomous machines, and there will be several out there that will be in that section, which, I remember not that long ago when Case unveiled the first autonomous tractor, and off came the sheet, and that just continues to grow. And again, that is all about agriculture and what's next and how do we become more productive. And we're really glad to showcase that technology at the Farm Progress Show.
You mentioned what's next. We had the privilege of being part of that series called Farm Next with Pivot Bio, and I guess they are bringing some of the inventors to that show, some of the folks who have these new products that are right on the cusp of being used by farmers.
Right. I hope many of your viewers have had that opportunity to see you with these Farm Next, these innovators. It's absolutely fascinating to me. That is what's next in agriculture. And I believe, we will have a tent called the Farm Next tent that will have those 10 innovators and their new products that hopefully several of them are going to be what makes agriculture to the next step. And they will be next to the Pivot Bio display at the Farm Progress Show, and something I think it's a you can't miss display.
Since we were last at Boone, that site has changed a little bit from what we understand. What's been done there?
Well, there's a couple things. I mean, number one, as far as getting there, they're putting in a new road on the west side of the site. So there will be a 3-lane entryway into the show off of Highway 30. So that should certainly ease the ability to get in. On the show side, I think one of the, beyond all the new technology, there's an acre of asphalt there, which I can't wait to see under the VIT tent. And it is asphalt under all those 10 by 10 displays. And what's unique about that asphalt is it's made with soybeans. And it's something that was discovered at Iowa State. This is being sponsored by the Iowa Soybean Association. And we're really excited to showcase this next technology that could really make a difference for America's farmers.
Finally, in the remaining half minute here, as we prepare to go to the show, of course, the website provides a lot of guidance, and there's an app as well, I understand.
Right. Go to farmprogressshow.com and click on Map Your Show, or download the Farm Progress Show app. Either of those will allow you to see not only all the exhibitors are there, what's going on, but also the ability to plan your show.
Very good. You can map your visit, I guess, the way it sounds. Thanks, Don, for sharing it with us. We're getting a little bit excited about this because we get to meet a lot of our old friends there.
That's right. I can't believe it's just a couple weeks away, and we're excited to see everyone there. It's going to be a great show.
Don Torty joining us. They host the Farm Progress Show. This portion of This Week in Agribusiness is brought to you by Firestone Ag. The Firestone Ag Dealer Network offers you the support, inventory, and resources you need. Visit firestoneag.com to find your local certified dealer. Well, it's time to get an update on what's happening with land values, land transactions. Our old friend Ray Brownfield is back. We haven't seen you in a while, sir. It's great to have you back here from Land Pro LLC.
It's good to be back. Thanks for you. Appreciate it.
You're probably too busy to come in here most of the time these days.
That's the good news. We really are. We really are.
Let me ask you about it. I mean, sometimes you see these reports on land values and they are history. They're what was going on. And I've noticed, of course, the commodity market fall back over the last 3 months. What is happening with land values? Are they starting to recede some?
We don't think so. We are surprised. Sometimes when you hit certain highs for a period of time, then they fall off due to circumstances. It could be government, it could be interest rates, it could be weather. We continue to see a really good, strong market, a lot of demand for particularly the high quality ground. Interest rates, sure, they're going up some. Doesn't seem to have a big effect yet. Will that come in 23? We don't know. How about income? It's good. People are selling grain, I think, at really good prices. That's a good thing. Input costs, yes, they're going up, but so far has not had an impact whatsoever.
The agriculture arena doesn't operate in a vacuum, to be sure. And I often wonder what is going on in the equity markets. How does that impact interaction with farmland values? Because some of these outside investors are very dependent upon their stock values.
They are, and we have seen some transfer funds into the land market because the stability of it's been extremely good compared to the stock market, the things you just alluded to. So they're diversifying. A lot of them are saying, well, we'll keep some of this, but we sure like land. It's a long-term, really great, appreciative type asset.
In the month of August, Congress is home. They're not in Washington. They can't do anything to us. Many of us feel a little bit safer, I think,
yeah, I think
during
you're right.
the month of August.
Yeah.
Nevertheless, we are reminded they carry a mighty slugger here that they can really use in one way or another. And was there not a significant impact on some of this investor sentiment one way or another last year when they were talking about major tax law changes?
There was. In fact, people really got them thinking maybe now's the time to take a hard look at selling their land. They were thinking about it anyway, perhaps, but then they said, yeah, we don't want to face those kind of issues. And so that did accelerate, I think, the selling process.
The people outside agriculture looking to invest have a lot of different reasons that they come to this arena to invest. And the financial value is only one, right? The appreciation of that land. Many other factors come into play, don't they? They
do. And the returns and rents are going up, obviously. The returns aren't extremely good, but they're steady, and they're in the 2.53% return. That's not so bad when you look at where else your money could go these days. So. And they don't make any more land. That's the whole issue. They just don't make any more of it. So they see it as a nice long-term. We see what's going on in the world right now. I think demand for food is going to get greater. Where does it come from?
There's still some interest, too, is there not, in recreational value? People want land to fish it or to hunt it or merely to conserve it and really have that asset to have and to hold, as you point out.
That market went up this year as well. A little more funds going that direction. People, I don't know if it's been COVID, what's been, they wanted to get out. They want to get out and enjoy and put some of their money into those areas. So we have seen a pretty good market for that kind of property as well.
Hang on, I have more questions for you, sir. Stay with us here. Ray Brownfield, Land Pro LLC. We'll talk about the farmer's interest in this land and what he or she might want to be considering as we continue on This Week in Agribusiness. This part of This Week in Agribusiness brought to you indeed by Firestone Ag. Harvey Firestone invented the first pneumatic farm tire, forever changing what it means to farm hard. Visit firestoneag.com to learn more about this history and tire solutions for today. Ray Brownfield back with us talking about farmland values. Across a wide swath of the country, you find various kinds of land. You find pasture land, of course. You're not just highly productive crop-producing land. How's the pasture land doing? Has it gone up in value as well, Ray, from what you're hearing?
I think it has. Of course, you're in some of the areas where hay is so short because of drought. So that's created value to where people do have good pasture ground, if you would, and I call it hay ground as well. Maybe some of it's permanent pasture, which isn't hay. But with the livestock industry where it's at, in cases where there's still cows that they can raise, yeah, it's going pretty good as well on the pasture ground.
Farmland isn't just valued on its agriculture production, the value of the crop coming off of it. There are many other things that come into play, but to enhance that crop production, sometimes capital improvements are necessary, right? A farmer needs to take a look at that.
He really does, and capital improvements, what we've seen in the last number of years is tile. Here in our part of the world, or where I live in the Midwest, drainage is a big thing. Soil can be wonderful, and a lot of it is, but if it's not drained properly, it doesn't produce well, and nutrients don't react like they should. So tile, it's really been a great investment. Yeah, it can cost $800, $1,000 an acre to do a pattern tile system. It'll come back in spades over the years. It increases land value, increases the opportunity to have more income as well.
If you think you perhaps are going to be selling some farmland, and if there's a date by certain you need to be doing that, you really need to have the calendar in mind, do you not? Because several things have to take place before you actually have that sale, that auction perhaps.
The auction particularly, and today that's really what we're seeing more because the demand market's so high, so that's why you auction. But one needs to understand, first of all, what's the tax issues. So everybody needs to get together in the family and say, go to the accountant. Okay, what's our tax consequence? Secondly, get a good attorney because they got to bring up title, they've got to have contracts, all kinds of things need to be done before it actually goes to auction. A survey should probably be done in most cases so people know what they're going to buy. So there's lots of things need to be done before it actually goes to the auction block. I say 60 days, 30 days to get it ready, 30 days to put it on the market and get tremendous good exposure. Get a good broker, by the way. I got to put a plug in for that. A credit lend consultant would be the best. So get somebody out there that knows what they're doing. Interview them. Get a good person that really knows the market.
Then, of course, if you are an outside investor, you need to find somebody to farm that land. The leases, of course, are a concern and a consideration. That brings up the question, where will farm leases go this fall as we look ahead toward 2023 with a lot of uncertainty, but still fairly robust commodity prices?
What we're hearing, there's a survey going out right now by the Illinois Society of Professional Farm Managers and Rural Appraisers that we just filled out, and you'll see it at Farm Progress Show. They'll talk about it. It sounds like they're going to still go up some in 2023. So we'll see, because we've got the input cost to think about. What's the market's going to be? We don't really know, but it looks relatively good, I'd say. So right today, most likely an increase. But let me back up on the other question. Make sure if you're going to sell your farm that the lease is terminated for next year, so it's not a rollover. The operator might get a chance, but don't have a rollover lease because that could hurt you. I'm sorry, that's something I forgot to say, and it's very important.
Always appreciate your expertise and your guidance, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you much.
Ray Brownfield joining us here this weekend. Land Pro LLC. He's based in Oswego, Illinois. Let's take a moment to see what the USDA released in its August crop report. Ending stocks of corn, they said, would be 1,400,000,000 bushels, and that's based on a total production in the United States this year of 14.4 billion bushels altogether. That's down 146 million bushels from the USDA assumption last month. The yield per acre, 175.4 bushels. Soybeans, the ending stocks tallied at 245 million bushels. That's an upward revision of 15 million bushels. Based on a new crop production of beans, 4,530,000,000 bushels. And that's on a yield per acre of 51.9 bushels. All wheat ending stock, 610 million bushels. That's based on total production of 1,783,000,000 bushels. And the wheat yield in the United States, 47.5 bushels. We'll get another tally, of course, next month. In the meantime, weather will matter a lot. Chad Colby's Look at Agriculture Technology comes your way next, brought to you by the IBM Watson Decision Platform, combining AI with Internet of Things data to help agribusiness increase yields, improve quality, and drive sustainability. Well, I guess you could say from Don Torty, we got that 10,000-foot view of the Farm Progress Show. Let's bring it down a little bit. Chad Colby is going to zero in on some of the tech, including drone technology at maybe a few hundred feet.
Max, you're right. I am super excited to see the latest technology at this year's Farm Progress Show. The last time we had a full Farm Progress show in Boone, Iowa was 2018. If that's the last time you attended a Farm Progress show, you're going to be blown away with everything you're going to see. I talked to Matt Youngman this week. He informed me that the various industry tents are completely sold out, which is really exciting because you can expect to see a lot of new emerging technology there. Many companies have already made their announcements on what they're going to bring to the show. Geringhoff has announced they're bringing that big dog, a 24-row, 30-inch corn head to the show this year. That'll be on display in their booth. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm looking forward to seeing that monster in person. The other thing you can expect is some major announcements during the show. But Klaus has already announced they've got their new Class 7 combine. It's called the Treon. It will be on display. This is a new combine that's completely been redesigned from the ground up to primarily do corn and soybeans for those farm sizes from 1,000 to 3,000 acres. And you can bet Klaus won't be the only company that's going to have major announcements with tractors and combines, headers, all that kind of equipment. But at the Farm Progress Show, everybody loves to see demos. And there's going to be a lot of demos that you're used to seeing, but there'll be some stuff you haven't, like this. What about this machine here? You want to talk about using a drone. This will take you along for the ride as well. Interesting technology. But in those demos, you're going to see all those great things you're used to. Certainly a lot in the autonomy space, whether that's autonomous grain carts, vehicles, all those things. I know myself personally, when it comes to technology, I love to see it in action. And at the Farm Progress Show, that's the uniqueness about it, is you can see it out in the field, you can see it working. So whether it's that new combine or new tillage tool, and we'll all be out there in the field watching this in action. And one last thing, and Max, we've been reminding people, there's so much to see at this year's Farm Progress Show. Be sure to go to farmprogressshow.com and plan your trip. We certainly look forward to seeing you there. For This Week in Agribusiness, I'm Chad Colby.
Yes, Chad Colby will be at the Farm Progress Show. You can bet Mike Pearson will be there and I'll be there. In fact, you may hear me out in the exhibit fields as those machines are on the move, describing those machines. Coming up in the second half hour of This Week in Agribusiness, another Plan Smart, Grow Smart visit brought to you by the folks at BASF. Stay with us here. Welcome back here to This Week in Agribusiness. Once again this weekend, we're sharing with you some of the inventions, the innovations, the new ideas that are being brought forward for farmers and ranchers to help them in the future. One of those is a company called Verge Ag. They have something called Launchpad so that farmers can more efficiently in the future manage their fields.
I'm Godard. I'm the co-founder and chief operating officer at Verge Ag. The idea for Launchpad came from working with the farmers to understand how they implement their field operations and how important is it to evaluate both field and equipment as it relates to the execution of that field operation. Right now, there isn't any software or a solution available to the farmer to really manage their land and equipment efficiently, to have some kind of control over how much inputs they're putting down or how they're traveling in the field. So we wanted to develop a solution that could really make the best use of the equipment that the farmer is purchasing. So when they're spending that much money to buy that equipment, how do we make sure that it is staying productive? 95% of all farm revenue goes towards some of the big expenses like seed, chem, fertilizer, and the use of equipment. 50% of all agriculture emissions come from fertilizer, fuel, and machinery use. So you've got an income crisis that's driving a climate crisis, and there needs to be a solution, which is how do we get more money in the hands of the farmer, which is really around efficiencies to improve their net income, which becomes a solution for this climate crisis. Every year there's some kind of automation technologies happening. Our goal is to allow the farmers to make the best use of that technology as it relates to their field. So step by step, we are helping them accelerate that transition to autonomous farming, that they're ready to adopt it. Looking ahead into the future, what we are most excited about is growth through market-driven innovation. We don't want to develop a software that provides value 20 years from now. We want to develop software that provides value today and impacts the farmer's life today.
Verge Ag, one of those interesting startups in Farm Next. Then there's Cropzone. They have an interesting approach to weed control on the farm. They do it by using low voltage electricity on those weeds.
My name is Dirk Vandenhutz. I'm CEO and co-founder of Cropzone. I have been in the ag industry now for 25 years, and we founded Cropzone with the aim to develop alternative herbicide treatments. We kill the plant by applying electricity into the plant. The major problem by treating plants with electricity is a resistance which you will find on the top of the leaves. We can bridge that physical resistance with a conductive liquid. By doing so, we can apply the electricity direct into the leaves, and that kills the plant by destroying the chlorophyll and the water uptaking system. The goal is to combine sustainability with cost saving in the inputs. If we spray tons of synthetic herbicides, it's very likely that the health and the quality of the soil is degrading, and we see that in research. If a farmer uses our system, they can desiccate crops without a synthetic herbicide. They can also prepare their soil without plowing. That allows them to use less input in their farm. And using less input on the farm means that you're acting more sustainable. That allows farmers to really work on a better soil quality. And that's what they need to increase their yield. Sustainability in the end will help to feed a growing population, but it also allows us to leave a planet to our kids which still has those resources.
And with carbon being so much in focus these days, especially in agriculture all across the United States, here's another startup in Farm Next. It's called Yardstick, allowing farmers to measure the carbon in their fields, but to do it less expensively.
Today, many farmers know that their practices can have profound effects on our ability to decarbonize agriculture. There's overwhelming evidence that the way we farm today is not sustainable. Climate change is advanced enough that we need to reduce emissions, and we need to actively remove atmospheric greenhouse gases. I'm Chris Tolles, co-founder and CEO of Yardstick PBC. We're an early-stage startup that's focused on measuring soil carbon, so when farmers change their farming practices, what we do is quantify the changes in soil carbon content. The conventional way of measuring soil carbon stocks today is you take a soil sample, you send it to a lab, they use a very expensive piece of equipment, and they tell you organic carbon content of your soils. There's nothing necessarily wrong with that process, it's just very difficult and very expensive. And when something's very difficult and very expensive, you don't do much of it. One of the things that's most exciting to us about soil carbon is that even if you don't believe in climate change, you absolutely believe in soil health. As soils function poorly, they produce less. And when they produce less, you make less. That's our ability to feed ourselves and support ourselves. And I think everybody would agree that that's absolutely something worth investing in. If we're gonna have more than another 40 harvests, we have to address soil health. And soil health and soil carbon align very, very well. The big goals are to transform agriculture from a net source of emissions to a net solution to emissions. There's a future in which agriculture could be a net remover of greenhouse gases from the atmosphere. We're a long ways from that, but that's a big, inspiring goal that gets us excited to keep pushing Yardstick forward.
Cropzone, Yardstick, Verge Ag, and others in that Farm Next series. You can go to the website farmnext.com to review them, vote on your favorite, and also enter to win a VIP pass to this year's Farm Progress Show. As we said earlier, that's coming up in Boone, Iowa, the end of the month. There's more coming up here on this weekend's This Week in Agribusiness. This Week in Agribusiness, serving America's most essential industry, is brought to you by Case IH. Welcome back to This Week in Agribusiness. Well, it was the week of the August crop report. We'll share some highlights of that with you a little bit later. Greg Solier is coming along with his forecast. But now the continuation of our series, Plan Smart, Grow Smart, as we get out and visit with farmers across the country. People like Justin Weber, who's at Geneseo, Illinois, sharing with me he's a believer, certainly in the use of fungicides in their crop fields. So there are definitely disease pressures that come
Yes.
into this area.
And especially having irrigation, you know, you have an environment there that is hot and wet and, you know, perfect for diseases. And so anything we can do, especially in those fields, is going to benefit us at the end.
Talk a bit about your fungicide use. What's your approach to using fungicides on your farm here? Are you one of those to just wait and say, okay, I think there may be disease pressures this year? Or how do you look at that, you and your dad?
Years ago, we were more selective in how many acres we would apply it to, but as the products have improved and we see the results, we apply fungicide to everything now. What we see is you can't always control the weather late season, and if it has that fungicide that kept that plant healthier, you have better standability. Down corn has been an issue in this area for several years, and you definitely saw a difference where you applied that fungicide.
In terms of the fungicide application, the timing, how does that work out? How do you decide when it's time or appropriate to go in with fungicide?
Well, we want to make sure that we can get it on, you know, around that tassel time. If we walk a field and we see there's, you know, early disease pressure, we will, you know, do it earlier than that. But we certainly don't want to wait too long, because once you see, you know, a field infected and having issues, then it's too late. We'll be using Valtima this year. It gives you a wider window to apply it and also lasts longer. So you've got better protection in the field for a longer period of time. And that's important, especially when you're relying on the weather.
Some folks have told us during the growing season they can really see a difference in plant health and vigor. Have you noticed that?
Yes, you spray a crop and you will see improvement. You'll see good color. You know, there's just so many things that you can visually see that tells us that it's helping. The other aspect of it is the yield. Keeping that plant healthy to produce a bigger ear, you know, have the kernel size be larger. All of those factors go into having a greater yield, and anything we can do to improve the plant health, we're going to try to do.
Yields are so important because when you get around to visiting with a grower, there's almost always that discussion about the cost of production. And what do you say to a grower who says, you know, I'm looking at what I can cut here. Maybe this use of fungicides can be pulled back in my operation.
You know, our goal is always to maximize yield, because if you don't have the bushels at the end of the year, no matter what the price is, you still don't have them to sell. So that's why everything we do, all of it is a factor in, you know, trying to plant the best product, use the best product to maximize that yield. And, you know, we don't want to cut corners, because ultimately that's just going to reduce your yield.
We certainly enjoyed the visit near Geneseo, Illinois with Justin Weber. You can see more of that visit. You can see other farms we have visited too in the Plan Smart Grow Smart series presented by BASF. You just go to plansmartgrowsmart.com. Greg Solier now brings us his farm weather forecast for the week ahead, presented by Pivot Bio Proven 40. Predictable, productive, weatherproof. Turn to a better nitrogen. Turn to Pivot Bio Proven 40. Learn more at pivotbio.com. Some of our friends on the fair circuit said this week we timed it right. It was nice here. But I wonder about that, Greg. A little bit later on here on the broadcast, we'll go to northwest Nebraska. Are they in for some heat?
They were last weekend, a little heat lingering, but certainly down from that 100 to 105, 108 degree swath of heat that covered many areas of the plains and even into parts of the western Corn Belt at times over this summertime season. So yeah, the heat easing on down, and temperatures, well, they're all the way up in the Pacific Northwest. Here's that western flank of the big, warm, hot ridge, and there is some of that heat still holding on across the Black Hills. Remember now, mid-August, not mid-July. Still up and above the 90-degree range, so watch for the stress on livestock here. Plenty of longer lines at the beverage stand, I'm sure, at your favorite fair. Back to the west, a couple of weather systems. We've seen some improvement into the drought pattern through Washington State and Oregon. The western flank of the monsoon season, which we will see, is very much intact intact with a scattering of showers and thunderstorms northward up through Big Sky country. As far north as maybe the Black Hills, the heat tempered a bit here into the northern plains, and still another return of maybe some 90 to 95 degree heat in the Panhandle and points on westward with, again, hit miss scattered shower and thunderstorm activity, peak heating of the day. But some of these thunderstorms, again, are dry based, so you get downpours, flooding in some sections of the southwest. Other areas, you're prone to lightning and dry based thunderstorm activity, and you're off to the races with fires, if you've seen as well, up into the northwestern part of the country. Maybe a stray shower offshore, a couple of sprinkles in the low clouds and fog first thing in the morning into the Bay Area. There's humidity in the air, West Texas and the southwestern states. The hot weather parked across much of the plains, but with time, with a stalled front and some moisture into Texas, temperatures will ease here. The temperature readings easing into the central plains. The hottest of the weather, a little piece in the valleys of California, but once again, pretty robust monsoon season continues on over the southwestern sections of the country, Max.
We get into August, and that rain can make such a difference in the soybean crop, for example, adding to the yields there. Where will the rains be now?
Not where we had them last week or the week before, and some of those rains were certainly in excess mode down through southern Missouri, parts of southern sections of Illinois. We've had some drought improvement with recent rains here through Michigan, but it is a cooler, drier setup into the northern parts of the Corn Belt, and with time to the east and southeast, with one little frontal wave on the move early in the week. Later in the week, another one coming into the Canadian prairie, basically dry. And so temperatures are down a bit here, easing stress on livestock, outdoor workers, and the back 40 as well. So some good news, especially where you've seen significant rain. Back into the plains again, the hot weather and a couple of showers and thunderstorms into sections of Kansas, middle parts of the week. So drier and cooler, really the operative weather words across the Corn Belt and parts of the eastern plains. Western plains on southward here, some of that lingering heat into Oklahoma and Texas, and a pretty significant swath of Gulf moisture. Frontal boundaries are on the move, but they're going to hit the skids here, kind of begin to run parallel to the upper air flow. And so showers and thunderstorms, and yes, you would have put drought relief for the forecast in some spots, Oklahoma, Texas, and points out of these, you betcha, as we move on to the middle and late portions of the week with the monsoon moisture too in the southwest.
It'd be nice to get a little more rain in Texas. I noticed some folks did get some the other day.
Absolutely, and there'll be more to come for this week. We'll show that here on the precip panel coming on up, but not much organized rain, and that's a good thing for parts of southern Illinois and Missouri. Anyway, showers and thunderstorms scattered across the northeast of New England. There's still an area of dryness and drought here into the northeast of New England. We'll get some relief both early in the week and later in the week with some significant rains up across the northeast of New England. Note the cooler, drier flow, a couple of sprinkles downwind of the Great Lakes region, and that is it. You'll enjoy it with outdoor work across the Corn Belt as the week wears on. Warm, high pressure across the Gulf Coast, plenty of Gulf moisture and humidity, and a couple of fronts here stalling on out. Disturbances track along them as troughs begin to form on up. Showers and thunderstorms of the forecast. More drought relief for the southeast and westward through Texas as the week wears on.
Greg Solier is back with his extended farm weather forecast for the country, presented by Pivot Bio-Proven 40. Predictable, productive, weatherproof. Turn to a better nitrogen. Turn to Pivot Bio-Proven 40. Learn more at pivotbio.com. We have to ask Greg Solier an important question because we know tropical activity can have far-reaching effects across the United States. When will the switch get flipped for the hurricane season, or will there be one?
There will be one. Term hyperactive continues to be talked about and kicked around in some of the technical literature and some of the social media runs out there. We kind of concur. You know, you get towards early to mid-September, the 10th, and that's the peak time of the hurricane season. We think things will be rocking and rolling by then. Matter of fact, at least an easterly wave begins to show up here as we move through this week on the precipitation charts, and things are beginning finally to come off the African coast on the infrared channel as well. Saharan dust, too much of that's easing on up, and there's been strong wind fields here in this particular part of the Atlantic too. In any event, look at the rain over the southeast, southern plains as well. Little, if any, across the Corn Belt. That's good news for some, not necessarily for others. Fair to good coverage, 1/4 to 1/2 inch in some of the drier areas of the northeast and New England, scattered across the Pacific Northwest, and some goodly downpours, 1 inch to 3. Watch for localized flooding in the southwest.
How hot do you see the week of August 22nd?
Now remember, now we're into August now, not into July, but still capable of pretty close to 100-degree heat into parts of the plains, and maybe some low to mid-90s into the upper Midwest, western Corn Belt. We see some cooler air still lingering into the northeast of New England. Cloud cover keeps temperatures at bay here. Humidity will be up and readings a bit below average finally for the valleys of California into the Pacific Northwest. The monsoon setup is robust and continues continues on over the southwest. Gulf moisture continues on too, and maybe a tropical system finally could phase with this feature up through the eastern seaboard. Drier weather for much of the heartland. Shower and thunderstorm activity focused in the southern Canadian prairie.
Well, for the week of August 29th, we'll be watching Boone, Iowa closely, to be sure, for the Farm Progress Show.
Would think temperatures well into the 80s, a day or two of maybe some low 90-degree heat right here. And the hot ridge is up into the Canadian prairie, northern plains, northern Rockies. Look at the cool off because of clouds and moisture into the east and southeastern part of the country. Tropics busy here, maybe named, maybe another name system here. Again, it's going to get very busy in a hurry in the next couple of weeks. Dry time for the upper Midwest, including, we think, Boone, Iowa. Showers and thunderstorms focused in the far eastern Corn Belt, normal precip in through California and the northwest.
I'm interested in the southeast especially, but Labor Day week, what do we see? At first of all, temperature, then precip.
Yeah, still a fair amount of heat in the forecast around here, still holding on and centered across areas of Nebraska, the northern plain states areas, and it looks like temperatures a few degrees above average. So if we can get moisture and certainly some warmth around there, we'll be in good shape, we think. Hopefully some late season moisture for the eastern Corn Belt. In any event, a little bit of a cool air surge into the northeast New England, lingering here, cloud cover, moisture across the Gulf Coast as we see it. Temperatures will be about normal into the Pacific Northwest. And here is that precipitation forecast. Maybe another tropical system. We got to keep an eye on this as the season and the weeks wear on, with phasing over the Gulf Coast, perhaps with the upper Midwestern jet stream pattern. And so things could get busy up and down the eastern seaboard. In any event, welcome to September. Plenty of moisture in the southeastern part of the country, Florida, Gulf Coast. Additional drought relief for areas of central and south Texas into the southwestern part of the country. And most of the action from shower and thunderstorm activity for late season varieties for the upper Midwest, far eastern Corn Belt, back still to dry time of the western complex. Normal precipitation anticipated for the Pacific Northwest.
Next on This Week in Agribusiness, it's Max's Tractor Shed, spotlighting another great American tractor.
Well, it was 40 years ago this fall that a tractor was thrown into the global spotlight. I mean, people saw it in Europe, South America, Asia. A John Deere nearly 300 horsepower tractor. This one, they call it Ronnie. Max's Tractor Shed is brought to you by Store Lock Tool Cabinets. You better believe it, they'll be at the Farm Progress Show. They'll have cabinets there. You can look them over, tug on the drawers a little bit, see how solid they are. To get ideas for what you'd like in the way of a Store Lock cabinet, storelock.com for more information. Well, a little more than 2 months from now, on his farm between Springfield and Quincy, Illinois, there'll be some flashbacks, no doubt, for our friend John Wearies, because he'll be recalling that day 40 years ago when Ron got into the cab with him on Ron the tractor. The Ron who climbed up into the cab was President Ronald Reagan. Yes, indeed. John's brother Larry was Illinois Director of Agriculture at that time, and the connection was made to bring the president out to the Wearies farm at Chapin, Illinois. But unlike some politicians, Ronald Reagan didn't just stand there for the photo op. He climbed up into the cab with the farmer for that op that day, as John Wearies recalls. In fact, a few days back, John got that tractor out of the shed, cleaned it up, took it for a ride, stoking some memories, posed it there with his first tractor, a 1941 Farmall, that John Deere 8630, made in 1975. Well, let's find out what's crossing the block at Big Iron Auctions. We rely each weekend on the marked stock to get that report. Let's switch to Big Iron now.
Well, Max, as we get into August, we've got land selling to the highest bidder on BigIron.com. August the 15th, there's some land selling in Monona County, Iowa. August the 16th, several parcels selling, some in Cumming County, Nebraska, land in Ogallala, Lakota County, South Dakota, and in Dickinson County, Kansas. Then we've got a big machinery sale August the 17th, over 1,500 items. The Clark McHugh Estate in Allen, South Dakota features a restored 1950 John Deere D. James and Lois Persons, they are retiring from St. Charles, Minnesota, selling a 2009 New Holland FR 9080 forage harvester. They've got two Meyer 6224 series forage wagons. Landmore Inc. is retiring from Carr, Colorado. They've got a 2010 John Deere 5095M tractor with a loader. They have a John Deere 8410 and a Fendt 820 tractor. Steve Lenz is retiring from Garner, Iowa, selling a 1976 John Deere 4430 and a John Deere 8400 tractor. Thomas Peters is retiring from Wisconsin. They've got a Case KSIH MX180 and an Ashland 5-yard hydraulic scraper, and some advance notice of the Richard Crooks Classic Tractor Collection selling on Thursday, September 1st. Items located in Iona, Iowa, and a select few will be on display at the Big Iron Sullivan Auctioneer lot at Farm Progress in Boone, Iowa. Land and equipment selling in August on BigIron.com.
Well, we head to South Dakota this weekend to visit with an FFA member. That's a state that gets a little bit busier, at least the west part of it, because of the Sturgis rally that takes place this time of the year. Paige Lehrkamp joins us from that Rapid City area, an immediate past officer of the state FFA in South Dakota. Paige, welcome.
Well, welcome. Good morning.
You were the treasurer over the past year, right?
Yep, I got to be the treasurer.
What does the treasurer do in the FFA organization? Before we find out more about your background, what's that role involve?
So the treasurer's role is just taking care of finances and then giving financial reports at specific meetings that we go to, or any meetings that they need to know our financial report or what we're doing with our finances. I'm in charge of doing all of that.
That had to be a tremendous learning experience for you.
Yeah, it really was. I got to see the side of FFA that some kids don't get to see, and I got to help like the business aspect a lot more with my learning.
You are very much involved also in livestock, in a home farm, as I understand. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so I have grown up raising Suffolk ewes and Gelbvieh Balancer cattle my whole life. We've shown livestock, which is sheep, cattle, and pigs, since I was 2 years old. So the farming and ranching industry has been a huge part of my life since I was little.
All right, I'm going to put you on the spot. If you had to pick a favorite species, which one of those three would it be?
I don't know. I think I'm around cattle the most, so that's probably the one I'd have to pick. But I really do enjoy showing pigs, and I really enjoy raising sheep too. So they're all kind of my favorite.
That's had to be a great growing up experience. If you've been doing it since the age of 2, so much you must have learned. And the thing that we see is poise often and confidence. What do you want to be doing with your career going forward?
Working in the leadership industry. I'm an agriculture leadership major right now at the South Dakota State University. And I just want to keep working with youth organizations and helping young leaders continue to figure out what they want to do, and working with organizations like 4-H and FFA and things like that.
It's so important. We need you in our future. We need good, solid young people. Paige Lehrkamp, best of luck to you.
Thank you.
Paige is an immediate past officer of the FFA organization in South Dakota. Well, it was hard to miss this week. I was traveling the roads in the heartland, and there were livestock trailers on the move. They were headed toward fairs, I think. How are those fairs going? What are we seeing at some of the livestock shows? I wanted to find out about that. Let's check in with Jake Scott. Jake is at Gordon, Nebraska, joining us this weekend here on This Week in Agribusiness. I know you judge a lot of shows, Jake. I see a livestock arena behind you right now.
So actually, my family and I have come down for the day to a show called the Corn Husker Showdown, and it's in Scottsbluff, Nebraska, and it's a neat concept, Max. What they've done is they are taking all of the county fair champions and reserve champions, and they've created a tournament style show. So today, all the champion and reserve champion species of livestock from the counties in western Nebraska will be here to show against each other, and then the champions selected from each of those species will get to go on and compete at a state level against one another. So kind of a new concept. They've been trying it for a couple of years. It's my family and I's first time to be here. So yeah, in about an hour, we'll get kicked off and see how we fare.
You know, we see the numbers ebb and flow a little bit sometimes at some of these county fairs. How have the livestock entries appeared at the fairs where you've been?
Ours have been real solid. And in our county, Sheridan County, we've had a group of volunteers who've put in a lot of work to our sale, to our livestock sale, and it's really gotten extra support, and it's generated more money for the kids. And I think that's helped driving our numbers in our particular area. Now, as the state goes, I still think our numbers are real solid. The shows that we've attended at a county, at a state, and at a national level this year have still been very well attended. Entries are good, even with some of the higher, gas prices, food prices, and things like that the families are experiencing.
I think some of us wondered about that, to be sure, if inflation would have kind of a chilling effect. Now, the Nebraska State Fair is yet to come, isn't it?
Yeah, it's coming up here in August, so it's yet to come.
That Grand Island site has turned out to be a pretty good one, I think, after all was said and done. Some people wondered about it initially, but I believe it's done well, hasn't it?
I think it's really one of the premier locations in the entire country, and Nebraska being such an agriculture state and specifically a beef state, I think as a producer, we're so lucky to have a facility like that to showcase our product to people throughout Nebraska and throughout the country, to tell our story a little bit and to promote our cattle. So we feel very fortunate to have the facility and the great staff down there at the Nebraska State Fair.
Jake, what a treat to have you on the broadcast this weekend. We may check in with you again some other day. Thanks for joining us there.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for your time.
Jake Scott, he's with Krebs Ranch. He's at Gordon, Nebraska, the northeast part of Nebraska there, updating us on what he's seeing. We're right in the midst of a very busy fair season, to be sure. I mentioned Grand Island. Not too many days from now, we'll be there for Husker Harvest Days on the end of the month of September. But we'll count on being here next weekend for This Week in Agribusiness. Till then, so long. Have a safe week. Closed captioning for This Week in Agribusiness is brought to you by Kubota. Shape your world. This Week in Agribusiness is brought to you by Case IH. This Week in Agribusiness is produced by Omax Communication in association with 22 Creative Group. We invite you to visit us online at agbizweek.com.